So I got a little bit of interesting news here, and this pertains to Julian Assange. Tina, you may have already seen this video.
Yeah,
but,
this is a mind blow.
Sarah Palin. Here we go. Let's watch it.
Did not see this coming. I did not see this coming.
Hey, this is Sarah Palin up in Alaska.
You already have my attention. That's all I need to hear. To be whatever I hear, it's Sarah Palin up in Alaska. I'm like, I am tuned in. How does Russia
I'm like
look?
grabbing the popcorn.
I can see Catalina from my apartment. She can see Russia from her house. We have a lot in common.
Hey, man, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Absolutely. And here it is. I mean, hey, I'm happy. I am happy she did this. I am no fan of Sarah Palin, but I am happy this happened.
No,
and here's what happened.
She's a flaming moron most of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I am the first one to admit when I make a mistake. I admit that I
That's debatable, actually, but okay.
Not supporting Julian Assange, thinking that he was a bad guy, that he leaked material that perhaps he shouldn't. And I've learned a lot since then. And I think Julian did the right thing. And Julian did us all a favor in America, did the world a favor by fighting for what he believed was right. And ultimately, he's been proven to be right.
Okay, that's enough. We get the gist of it.
We get the point.
And here's what I tweeted. I'm no Sarah Palin fan. And to be honest, I doubt she would have done this had Assange not exposed the DNC. Yeah, and I believe that. I do believe that. I think there's a certain tribal element to this. Regardless, I am glad Sarah Palin did this. And I wish more politicians like her would, because they're the ones who have Trump's ear. And quite frankly, I don't care what their motivations are. I mean, when I tweeted this, there were people who were like, well, I think she's just grifting, or I'm like, I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit. She's right.
She's absolutely right. And I mean, she did not put it very eloquently at all.
No, I don't think she really understands the issues. That's why.
I don't think she does either. She sounds like someone just handed her a note card, then like, Julian Assange, you're for him now. And she's like, okie dokie, exactly. And she's just like, I think he's right on. And it's like, all right. It's a very like nonchalant, like way to frame one of the most pressing assault on freedom of the press issues of our life.
And that's exactly what it is.
That is exactly what it is.
If they win this, Ron, this is the thing. If they win this battle, if they extradite him to the United States and put him on trial, they're literally putting this idea that news is as a public service is false. This opens the door to so many wrongs. I mean, look, whether you think he's a good guy or a bad guy is sort of tangential to the point. The point is this: he is a publisher of important information. Everything he's published is verifiably true. It's factual. Yeah. And there's nothing about doing that that's bad for the public interest. Nothing.
Yeah.
And in fact, more people should stop arguing about, like, I still have people in my mentions saying he's a traitor because of the DNC thing. I'm like, well, then if you're more concerned about that than the fact that what was exposed, the corruption of the DNC, all of these things, if that isn't a concern to you, then you're an idiot. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say.
Well, and talk about propaganda. I mean, listen to yourself when you say stuff like that. Well, he's a traitor because a traitor to who? Who's he a traitor to? I mean, that's the question I always ask people. I'm like, who is he a traitor to? To the DNC.
The dark side of our government that are they're infringing on your Fourth Amendment rights. Right, Edward Snowden, same thing.
So your allegiance is to the DNC or the United States government, not to we the people. Not to our right to information. That's where your allegiance is. Why don't we just have a straight up dictatorship then? Why don't we just have, why? Let's just take the mask off. Let's appoint them all the empire. That's how they behave anyway. He's a traitor. Listen to yourself say that sentence. And I have heard relatively intelligent people say that sentence. And it makes my freaking head explode. It's scary. How many times
to me.
I mean, I've heard very competent, able-bodied people say stuff like, or able-minded, say stuff like, oh, don't you want to know what foreign interference is going on in our elections? How about we handle the domestic stuff first?
Yeah.
How about we handle what goes on, the voter purges, the suppression? How about we handle that first?
Exactly.
It's
That's
unreal.
exactly right, Rod. And also, I mean, you think the United States doesn't interfere all over the world in other people's elections and has for decades?
Yeah.
This is just, to me, this is sort of tangential. It's not the heart of the issue at all. And nor does it convince me or compel me to agree with you. The point is this: democracy dies in the dark. The things that were exposed by Julian Assange and Edward Snowden should cause us all to pause and be afraid.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that simple and straightforward. And if you don't see that issue, then I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. You're an idiot. Neither one of these guys are traitors.
No, absolutely not. Well, and Assange isn't an American citizen. So just calling him a traitor is just a completely bogus. Like, what the hell are you
makes it
talking
even
about?
sort of another layer of...
It adds another layer to absurdity on what is already a like 25 layer sheet cake of absurdity. It's like the amount
layers being charitable.
You would need the entire Great British Bake Off team. I don't know anything about that show. My wife likes it. That's all I know. My wife likes that show. And I don't.
I love that she likes that show. I like that show too. It's hilarious.
She likes that show. I guess there was a Scottish dude everyone liked, and everyone cried when he got kicked off or something. I don't know. She told me about it. I was kind of paying attention. I was doing something else at the time. But she likes that show, and I guess you like that show. And I do. I'm the Scrooge who doesn't like that show. I have nothing against that show. I'm just not cool. I don't watch it. I'm not cool.
But you don't bake, probably.
I'm a cook guy.
Your wife's tips
I'm a
on
cooking
sourdough
guy.
bread have been like amazing. My bread is now next level because of your wife.
I am thrilled to hear that. Well, she's been. I mean, her bread's been killer. She's really she really works on it, and she's been knocking it out of the park. But yeah, I'm not a bake guy. I'm a cooking guy. Like because I'm not good at measure this. I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to do that. Whereas as cooking, you're just. Cooking is a little more. Yeah, you're just creating something, and if you fuck it up, you just you just shut up and eat it. You add more stuff to fix it, or you just eat it yourself and don't tell anybody about it. And try again. Yeah. Whereas baking, you got to measure stuff, and if you don't, well, then it's going to be fucked up and it's burnt. And what are you going to do then?
There's some science involved for sure.
Yeah, and I'm more of an arts guy. So I like to cook. But baking, I never really got into baking. I've never really been good at it. I've never been able to do it. And my wife does both. She's good at both. So you can do both. I just choose not to.
It's all good. It's all good.
What are you going to do? Are you more baking or cooking? Where do you fall? Or are you both too?
You just cut out for a second.
I said, are you more baking or cooking?
Ooh. I'm a bother too, probably.
Good for you.
I do like to bake though.
Bravo. All power to you. I mean, that's
mainly because I like dark chocolate, and Americans don't generally like dark chocolate. They like sugary kind of milk chocolate.
Some dark chocolate. Yeah, because you're from Sweden originally. Right?
I was born here, firstborn. My dad is from Malmo. He came here when he was in his early 20s.
But you had that type of chocolate around your entire life.
100%.
So because I think for a lot of Americans, myself included, our palate is just not trained.
It's different.
For the really true dark chocolate. Because I've had some of that stuff
I like
before.
It bitter.
I some of that stuff, I just can't. But it's kind of funny. I had a good friend from Belgium.
We pickle fish too, so.
That I think I can get into. I'm pretty sure I can get into that.
Pickled herring's really good.
I believe it. I don't think I've ever disliked anything pickled. So
okay, good.
I'm sure I could get on board with that. But my friend from Belgium, he brought me some really specialty Belgium chocolate, and some of it was more milk chocolate. And then some of it was the really dark stuff, this is what we do over here stuff. And it was my palate. I just couldn't handle it, And I get it. I knew it was very high quality stuff. I just couldn't. And it was funny. My mom, my mom couldn't get into it either. And she's one of the biggest chocolate fanatics I know. But she totally has the American palate. Yeah, she's this isn't chocolate. And then and then my cousins, this was during a family holiday, right? And my cousins were well, this chocolate is just not, American palates. We're just not trained for this chocolate.
Right.
And then my mom, to her credit, she's just listen, I noticed neither of you two motherfuckers are eating it either. So I don't think those weren't her exact
meanwhile,
words.
I would have gobbled it all up. I'd be like, yeah, this is the good stuff, right? Because that's my palate. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. So when I have milk chocolate, I'm like, this doesn't taste like chocolate to me.
See, that's interesting. And I'd like to think I'm a little bit in between, because the super like milk chocolate, I can't even eat that stuff. It's too much.
Yeah, it's too sweet.
But then like the more like you go to, a decent chocolatier and you get I actually like dark chocolate more than I ever have in my life, because my wife's really into dark chocolate and she got me into it.
Okay.
But I don't think it's quite the bitter level of what you are accustomed to.
Probably not. Like I made fudge a couple years ago for the holiday season, and it wasn't sweetened fudge. It was dark chocolate fudge.
Okay.
Some people couldn't handle it.
Right on.
They were like, wait, what is it? I'm like, that's actually chocolate.
And then you were like, you guys are posers, and you snorted a line of it in front of everybody.
Exactly.
You just snorted fudge.
I was just like, more for me. It's all good.
So I wish, to bring it back to, I wish more politicians like Sarah Palin would do this, because
you're
Trump
right.
will listen to them. That's who
look,
Trump
Biden called him a high-tech terrorist or something like.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That's so gross. That's so gross.
And I don't understand the people that support Donald Trump and they're like fighting for Julian Assange. Like, do you not hear what Trump is doing? Because he doesn't support fixing this either.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't.
I mean, that's really clear.
And I don't think Trump's going to pardon Assange. I wish he would. I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't think he's going to. I have very little confidence. And, we covered it when that pastor tweeted that stuff. We covered it because I was like, well, this is Trump's pastor. And then that guy was just bullshitting.
He was bullshitting.
But, man, you got to try. And if politicians who have Trump's ear, i.e. someone like a Sarah Palin, will speak out about this stuff, I'll take it. I'll take it.
No, I agree with you. And I'm curious to know what motivated that. I think you're right about the DNC aspect, that she wouldn't have gone board. But I'm wondering who she's been having conversations with that's convinced her that this is the right policy. I mean, I'm curious.
I'm curious too, because, and again, the fact that she's saying it's enough for me, I don't really care about her motivations. But what makes me curious about it, like you're saying, is that, some people are saying, well, she's just grifting. It's like, yeah, but what grift is she going for here?
Exactly.
Like Julian Assange has been made public enemy number one through years of propaganda by both parties and a complicit media. And I'm sorry, you have no excuse if you're in the media at this point. You have no excuse.
I agree.
You are at worst a propagandist yourself and a criminal, and at best negligent, and you don't deserve your job. If you are a journalist, and this doesn't mean you need to like the guy. You don't have to like the guy. That's nothing to do with that.
You don't. I mean, I think he probably is a raging asshole, but I think that's a totally different conversation.
It's totally different. It's not relevant at all. What it has to do with is if you don't see this for what it is, a gross assault on freedom of the press, something that will be taught in history and hopefully taught the right way, where this was absolutely disgusting and just thumbs its nose at the principles we're told this country holds dear. You have no excuse at this point. You should be banned from journalism.
Exactly. Part of the problem is a lot of these folks are pundits. They're not journalists per se. They're part of the media complex, but they're pundits. I think most journalists do support getting behind Julian Assange being let go. Having said that, I think the main problem is Julian Assange has dirt on folks in both parties and in folks in corporations. I mean, his stuff goes back, 2010, you had the HB Gary leaks. I mean, all of those folks, fast forward, are now part of Cambridge Analytica, Palantir. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a long history of people he's pissed off that are wealthy in places of power. So, and they don't want their secrets exposed anymore. And he's been very efficient in doing that. So that's very threatening.
Yeah. Well, Sarah Palin, thanks for getting something right for the first time ever, I'm pretty sure. And I wish more preferably people more powerful than Sarah Palin. As far as people who have Trump's ear. Yeah. Because I think
somebody that could really make the case.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, has anybody in the squad come out in support of this? Where are they?
Not to my knowledge, but
not to my knowledge either. So.
But they don't have Trump's ear. I mean, I'm just talking about people who have Trump's ear. I mean, they should just because it's the right thing to do. Absolutely.
100%.
But as far as like, oh, this is why I'm happy Sarah Palin did this. Part of it is like, well, she has Trump's ear. And I'd like to see people with power who have Trump's ear. And that's the big problem because I think, I think there's a good chance I don't know if it's good or bad because I know nothing about Trump's pastor, but I think there's a chance Trump's pastor was making the case for Assange and Trump was listening because Trump just listens to whoever has his ear last and compliments him.
This is true.
I think maybe he was listening. And then what happened was Hypatia agreed with it. And Trump was like, well, Hypatia, I hear you. And then somebody, more powerful behind the scenes who really has Trump's ear, and let's be honest, this is the same war machine. Trump's just the same. And they told him, no, pardon Assange, no way. And that squelched that. So
in your mind, let me ask you this, Ron. Do you think it's more likely that a leaving Trump campaign would pardon him versus an incoming Biden administration?
Oh, geez. I think both are as equally unlikely. I don't think either one is likely. I mean, I think that the chances of a Joe Biden pardoning him are pretty much non-existent because I mean, Joe Biden worships President My Boss. And let's look at President My Boss's history on whistleblowers. It was abysmal. And that was something that when he was in office, you weren't allowed to talk about. And when you did, people looked at you like you had lobsters crawling out of your ears.
No, but we need to talk about it. Obama
absolutely.
went after more whistleblowers than anybody before, including George W. Bush.
Yeah.
That's scary. He campaigned on doing the opposite, and George W. Bush is the guy that created the Patriot Act. I mean, how can you outdo that guy?
Well, George W. Bush put the authoritarianism in place and put it in a place of ugliness it had never been before. And that wasn't just George W. Bush by himself. That was the New American Century. It was Dick Cheney. It was all of those.
AEI, American Enterprise.
They're parasites. They are evil parasites. So they put that system into place, and then Barack Obama just allowed it to go on autopilot. And he certainly didn't like anyone that pushed that. He didn't like Edward Snowden. He didn't like Julian Assange. He didn't like any of that stuff. Yeah, he commuted Chelsea Manning's sentence after he tortured her for 4 years.
Right.
And
it turns out the biggest beef I have with Obama is this.
That's among them. I mean, whistleblowers and the fact that he just continued the war machine. Which again, it goes into the whole like putting Bush on autopilot. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it because that's exactly it.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your